What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so today's video, we are going to be talking about X-Men number 12 by Jonathan Hickman and Lionel Francis Yu. And in this video, we are going to learn a little secret about the character Rockslide and a whole lot more about Apocalypse's past and how his past is directly gunning for the X-Men in Ten of Swords. We are going to talk about all this and more right now, but first, wash your damn hands and let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple eyes. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click. Okay, so last time we left off, we talked about, the game that Summoner was going to play with Rockslide that got interrupted when the Katati showed up and started dropping bombs over Krakoa. Well, we learned they did actually resume the game, and what we learned from that game is a weakness of Summoner, and it's his eyes. Every part of his body is invulnerable. That is his mutant power, that he cannot be hurt. That said, one of the things that Rockslide doesn't bring up is Summoner's ability to create and generate demons. Summoner is a part of the Summoner School of Amenth, which we'll basically talk about in a little bit. However, Summoner is also a wizard, and that is why he is called what he is, though Summoners typically are known by their mark, not so much a name. And when we look at the back of this book where they talk about the Summoners of Amenth, we learn that there are 3 different classes of Summoner. A Summoner Minor, who can summon a single host or minor demon, and that originally there were 600, but now there are currently 350. We also learn that there are Summoner Adepts, who can summon a small horde of minor demons or 1 major elemental, and their numbers were roughly 30, now 22. And then there are the High Summoners. Those were able to summon a horde of elementals and up to 3 major demons. And that there were originally 3, but now there are currently 2, and Summoner is one of them. What we do learn about Rockslide is that his body is not exactly the way we thought it was. He is not just humanoid rock. That's not his mutation. There's actually a person inside of him. His true form is made up of energy and is surrounded by the rock that makes up his body. This is why when Anoli and Loa remark over his power, saying that's why whenever he blows up, he just reforms, because the rock around him is just nothing more than a piece of armor that protects the true being inside that is made up of the energy. Now, when asked how this is a weakness by Rockslide, Summoner says that it's not necessarily a weakness, but it is a vulnerability. If someone knew that, then they would know where and how to strike you down. And this is when we get an interjection from Apocalypse, who is just fresh off of finally completing his mission that started in Excalibur number 1 and was finally realized in Excalibur number 12, where he basically was trying to create a Krakoan gate that would lead to Otherworld, but Otherworld was trying to keep the Krakoan gates itself. The magic there was rendering the gates inert. Not only did Apocalypse do this, but he basically did it using the bones of other externals. He basically took the characters Cruel, Nicodemus, Saul, and Kandra, who had been hiding inside a gym in Queen Saturnine's citadel. He had basically killed them using Richter's newly upgraded powers, aided by volcanic magma, and used them to basically destroy most of the original externals, who recently popped up in the pages of Excalibur. We learned before that the bones of powerful beings, powerful mutants, can make for great magical tools, and Apocalypse, knowing this, decided that this would be the way that the Otherworld gate would be made. That he could circumvent the rules of Otherworld, and anyone else who was trying to thwart him, he could do it by simply using his own coven. And now that he has done so, the gateway to Arakko is now open. Now they can travel anywhere. Now the problem is Apocalypse still has some reservations about what he's about to do, opening the gate so that one of his grandchildren can cross through and possibly save God only knows what, Apocalypse has no clue what he's actually doing this for. He's simply doing this out of obligation to his blood, which is very interesting when you consider the fact that Apocalypse has done a lot of shit. Across 12 issues of Excalibur that have come out so far, he has done a great and many terrible deeds to accomplish what he's doing here. And then, of course, we go back to some of the pages of the Free Comic Book Day previews of X-Men and some other solicitations. We do know that Apocalypse is going to be held accountable for something very soon, and we know that there are some characters that have been shown off that we don't really know exactly what it is that their purpose is, but we know that, you know, we're going to be seeing a lot of these characters for the first time, and we also know that Queen Saturnine is far from done, and we know that she has every reason to be coming after the X-Men now, even more than she already was, because now they have stolen from her. Thing is, Summoner does help Apocalypse understand exactly what he has forgotten. Way back when, something that we learned in the pages of House of X and Powers of 10 is that Krakoa was once known as Okara and was split in two by the Twilight Sword, hence making Arakko and Krakoa, and that demonic forces had sprung from the depths of Okara, and Apocalypse was the one who laid all of it low. Though one of the things that is brought up is the fact something happened. Apocalypse did something. Some say that he saved the world. Some say that he protected all of mutant kind. But Summoner also says there are others who say that he betrayed his family, that he sacrificed his family to save the world. And what we learn is that there was a rift between Apocalypse and the original recipe for Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and Apocalypse's own wife, Genesis. And somewhere in there, that schism bled down to making the four Horsemen of the Apocalypse go their way and Genesis to go her own. Summoner speaks of the children of Arakko going their own way, carrying on the fight, and that when they delved further into the world, finding the realm a myth, they basically found the White Sword, a character who we have seen teased on some of the solicits for Ten of Swords, someone who is basically touted as being the leader of 100 champions, and someone who is basically the blight of the world, that basically he has run roughshod with his champions, destroying everything in his wake. And that eventually when the White Sword and his armies came to Arakko, that apparently they fought them off down to the last man. And though that did deplete their numbers, Summoner does recall the day of his birth, the day that the original war, and a character who I'm going to assume is possibly the direct child of Apocalypse, I don't know, he is blue, but yeah, basically the very same setup that the mutants of Krakoa have. We see a quiet council with Arakko's face lingering in the background, and that Genesis, when she learned that one of her own had discovered that the fall of Arakko was nigh, Genesis rose to meet the challenge and eventually facing off with the White Sword, who we learn apparently the White Sword was originally among their ranks, but he somewhere down the road became corrupted, that his cycle of life and death, living and dying and then being resurrected, twisted him, and that somewhere down the road Genesis' army that went toe to toe against the White Sword and his 100 champions, after 6 years of battle, Genesis returned with only a scant few mutants. We also learned that by the time Genesis returned, very little but death remained on Arakko, and that one of their number, Iska, the traitor, whose mutant power is basically that she doesn't lose, someone who had defected from the original island of Okara back during the original war, she returns. And she is somehow able to make amends with Genesis, though Summoner says that he has no clue exactly what was said between them, just that Iska offered her a chance to parlay with Annihilation, the god of Amenth, and Genesis seemed to accept it. And when she approaches Annihilation's throne, she's faced by the character that we've seen so much of lately in all these solicits, but never actually known their name. And it's that Annihilation, the god of Amenth, did battle against Genesis. And regardless of whatever happened in the fight, Annihilation destroyed Genesis. And despite the fact that Genesis fell, Arakko carried on because they felt there was still hope, that there was something still out there. Even though Genesis had been laid low, there were some who believed Apocalypse was still out there and that he was creating a society, a civilization that could one day help them reclaim what they had lost. And though Summoner reveals that others went out to seek salvation in other areas and other parts of the universe, he doesn't really know if they were ever successful. But the only thing that Summoner does know of them are the final words of his mother, War, which were, "Grandfather, great apocalypse, we are out of time. A Minth is on the march, and only you can save us." This kind of explains a bit more why Apocalypse has been so secretive, why he has been doing all the things he's been doing in the pages of Excalibur. It has all been for this so that he can save his children and his children's children. And what he plans to do is to send Summoner to herald his return, and in doing so sending the likes of Banshee and Eunice, the Untouchable, alongside him. Now, this isn't the first time that Eunice has been brought up since House of X. He's actually been brought up on a couple of different occasions. And I found it very interesting because basically he has the ability to create, these invisible psionic force fields around his body that can basically hold off just about anything. And of course, Banshee, he can generate sonic screams. So I don't know if he just sent mutants he thought were useful or mutants he thought no one would miss, or I don't know, but it is interesting that he picked those particular mutants. Aside from that, Apocalypse is going to get the other mutants ready for war to take on the might of a Minth and Annihilation. And the thing I find very interesting about this too is that you go back and look at some of the things that have been implemented on Krakoa, some of it now makes a little bit more sense. Why there's a bit more of a warrior nation attitude on Krakoa, even though technically they are, quotey fingers in peacetime. Not trying to make an excuse for things like the Crucible, but it does make you wonder why Apocalypse is so bent on the mutants fighting for what they are. Just because you have found a peaceful island where you can live unfettered, you should still be prepared to go to war to protect it. And Summoner goes off to do his grandfather's bidding. He says that when you see me again, I will greet you in the manner befitting not just a hero of Krakoa, but as the father and true heir of Arakko. You have my word, grandfather. This I promise. That one, I don't know, that one came off a little ominous. I'm not gonna lie, it came off a little ominous. I have reservations about this because Summoner is such a strange and interesting character that I'm not really sure if I trust anything that they say. However, I do personally feel like, knowing what I know, knowing that, Apocalypse is going to be held to task for his past crimes, something tells me this is not going to go the way that Apocalypse thinks it will. Ten of Swords is ramping up, and we will be taking a good long peek at it next week because that's when it's going to kick off with 10 of Swords Creation #1. And we'll also get Juggernaut #1, but I don't know if that's actually going to factor into that any at all, but looking forward to it nonetheless. That said, let me know what you think about the prelude, the road that we have now been walking to get to 10 of Swords, and what do you think about what's going to happen to Apocalypse next? Do you think that his children are already in cahoots with Annihilation, as the covers of 10 of Swords seem to imply, or is something else going on? More importantly, make sure you stay tuned to YouTube channel Comic Book Herald, because I'll be joining them for a stream on their channel this Saturday, the 19th at 10:45 a.m. Central Standard Time to talk about 10 of Swords. Go subscribe to their channel. Make sure you set that bell for notifications just like you do here. Wash your damn hands and sound off in the comments. So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers, and tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in $1, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra.